Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Odos? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show.
yeah.
Ready to go, playoff edition.
Absolutely, Joe. I mean, it was an exciting weekend. Super wild card weekend. A lot of great matchups out there.
Except for the Cowboys.
Yeah, we knew that was going to be a stinker, right?
That was a pretty bad game altogether. Referees, you name it, it was all bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, but it was exciting. A lot of closer matchups, too, than we really thought about, too, you know, when we saw it. And it was exciting football. And this is the epitome of what we want to hear out of parity with the NFL. I mean, especially in the NFC side. I mean, it's all over. It could be anybody. And that there's three NFC East teams still alive.
Right. And that's something we saw in the season. Parity all throughout, all the way to the very end. And then even in the playoffs, we see that again. Once again, we know the playoffs is a different breed altogether. But, man, were all the games really good, except for Tampa, of course. But, listen, if you're new to this show, could you do us a huge favor? Search us up on YouTube, Football on the Know Show. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. You can also follow us on Facebook or Twitch. We're also on Twitch as well, or Twitter at FB_know. Anywhere you get your podcast, that's right, you can take us with you on the go. iTunes, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Drop a follow. Come dive in right here. Drop a comment down below. Let us know you're alive so we can bounce some ideas off each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we had some great matchups. Cody, what about the matchups over there? Let's talk about the first one here that we were able to witness this weekend, Saturday's games here.
All right, so our first game that kicked off for the weekend, we had the 49ers going against the Seahawks in what wasn't the most interesting game, as one team really just pulled away almost right out of the gates. But, why am I so bad at talking sometimes? But... So, Geno Smith, in that game, he just, I'm going to put it back to you guys quick while I do something.
All right.
Thank you.
And
All right,
we're
well,
back.
Geno Smith, well, you know what? It was funny
That
when you
was a
saw
weird
this
one.
game, though, too. I mean, you said maybe they started off right off the gate, but it was kind of close for me. I mean, again, because Seattle was really kind of hanging with them for a little
definitely.
bit
They
in the
definitely were.
beginning. And then you saw what happens when you face a defense like that and a team that's been there before, too. I know Brock Purdy hasn't, but Shanahan, they all know it. You know, they've been here. They're making a push. Plus, with the All-Stars that they had. I mean, look at the plays that Debo had made, too, for them. It's highlight reel plays against this team that really, again, if you look at Seattle, they weren't even really supposed to be there anyways. So, you know, they're definitely that wild card team that scratches in there. They made it as far as they could. But, again, we all said it throughout the season, too. When they're at home, they have that crowd behind them. It really is like having another teammate down with them.
Absolutely, and that's the thing with Seattle. They overachieved this year. That's what they did. We didn't give them any chance to even get into maybe the playoff discussion. It's
true.
We thought that was going to be a complete rebuild. And then here they come. Surprise, they're in the wild card, and they did what they could. They knew that they were facing a giant of an opponent with the Niners and how great their defense is and locked in. And to be honest, the Niners coming into the playoffs were one of the healthier teams. You know, a healthy Debo. You know, they rested him long enough throughout the season. So, and that kind of came into play. And then you started to notice like the Christian McCaffrey effect and everything else. It was just too much to handle for Seattle. Don't get me wrong. Seattle gave it all they had. They really hung in the game longer than I thought they would be able to. But at the end, the defense started to figure out Seattle's offense. The Niners offense started to get more plays and get into a rhythm. And then you just saw the Niners take over the game at the end.
Mm-hmm. Cody, are you ready? Can you
yeah.
talk now? You're good?
Yeah, no, I'm good now.
All right. Oh, you had to take the jacket off. That's why you had to
that's
loosen
it.
up and get that jersey going.
Yeah, so
right.
what the Seahawks did this season with Geno, while it was impressive, you know, we weren't expecting a lot. Wilson left. We all thought, no, it's going to be the rebuild. Jeez. That's going to be the rebuild year. Gino's just going to lead them. Maybe they'll sneak a few wins, but all year they were competing. They got to a great point. Pete Carroll proved he can bring just about any team to the playoffs. But at the end of the day, it's just not enough when going against a team like the 49ers led by Brock Purdy. All right, so
what was the other matchup we got here too? Also on Saturday.
Yep, on to our next one. We had the Chargers, and the Jags, which kind of went very, very much the way we had called it, where both teams were very streaky. You saw the Chargers get out in the first half, and they looked like that Chargers team they were expected to be all season long. Got that huge lead, and then they just forgot there was a second half to that game. They didn't show up in the second half, and the Jaguars just fought and clawed their way back in until eventually they got to that 1-point victory. It was a cool game to watch, but both teams just showed that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde mentality.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. This game, I was interested in the Jaguars playing the Chargers and all that, but like I was like distracted. I was doing something else that day at that time, and I'm like, I'll tune into the game a little bit later, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll tune into it a little bit later. Right before halftime, I tune in and I see the score, 27-0, and I'm just like, what happened? Yep. Oh my God, this is not even a game. Like, what the hell happened? And then we see the stats come up. You see Trevor Lawrence, 4 interceptions thrown. I'm like, oh no, Jacksonville.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You have an opportunity to go a little bit further in the playoffs. Let alone, it's amazing they made the playoffs, but they fought hard. And the defense started to come together and everything. And then you see the stats of Trevor Lawrence turning the ball over 4 times. And the score the way it was. And I'm like, I don't even know, like, if as long as the Chargers don't take their foot off the gas, they pretty much got it locked up, right? But I was still cheering for Jaguars. I was still hoping somehow, some way they come back into this game. And sure enough, the second half was a whole different story. We saw Trevor Lawrence start to dial it in, getting rid of the football to the necessary players, and running the ball with Travis Etienne at the times, giving him the ball out in space. They were doing a lot of things differently than the first half. And the defense started to click. They started to get some 3-and-outs. And then giving the ball back to their offense to kind of climb back into this matchup, and right to the very end. Like, it was insane. I can't believe that I watched in the playoffs nonetheless, because this doesn't happen in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Typically, when you're out, like you're up 27, or the opponent's up 27 large, you're pretty much done for the second half. Like, there is no comeback in the playoffs like that. And surprisingly, the Chargers let it slip through their fingers in the second half. The Jaguars come roaring back, and Jaguars move on. It's pretty insane.
I like that. I like the play on the words. They come roaring back. Yeah, and that's kind of what it was. Again, if you look at this team, they look different from what they've looked like the past couple of weeks. Everybody thought maybe that Doug Peterson had found the missing link here, and opened them up. And like, here we go. This is who we thought he was going to be coming out of the draft. Bang, finally, this is it. They just needed the right coach, right? And then all of a sudden, it comes out, and the Chargers like, all right, we weren't sure what to expect, but maybe now they've got it. Maybe they're like, now it's playoff time. Let's get it clicking. But much like the Chargers we've seen throughout the season, again, very streaky, like Cody had brought up the fact that, too, the way it was going to be. And you saw it, right? Second half, they kind of put their foot off the gas a little bit, and then it's hard. We've talked about it multiple times with multiple teams. I think the Chiefs do that a lot of times, is you get it going, and it's hard to let off and then get the foot on the pedal again and get going, because you're already out of that mode. You know what I'm saying? You got to keep pushing. You got to keep grinding.
Be aggressive.
Just be aggressive the whole time. I think that's why even the 49ers were able to do what they were able to do. But the Chargers, again, this is where it brings up the fact that I question, again, the head coach. And unfortunately, Joe Lombardi is the one that gets, hacked
the
first.
axe.
He's the one that gets the axe, and the blame
It's
for
his
it the way
fault.
the offense was. But I mean, it's funny if you look at the two the lines here. Justin Herbert's line, 25 for 43 with 273 yards with a touchdown. That's not that bad. You think he was the winning quarterback. If you look at Trevor Lawrence, before in the first half, you're looking at 4 interceptions, but then he came back with those 4 TDs at the end. Overall stat line isn't the best right there, though, but you would think that this guy's going to probably be the loser, the way it was playing out. But they turned it on second half, and this is one of those surprise things that normally this doesn't happen. That teams are able to overcome this type of turnovers. If you lose a turnover game like that, usually you're going to lose. This is one of those special moments And again, only by the Chargers, in my mind, that this happens. Something like that. One of the teams that do this frequently. And the fact that Brandon Staley, especially now they come out, now that the players are behind him. Okay,
for them.
okay, that's great. No,
You
they're
should
going to be
be.
behind him because he's your coach right now. But
he's
when
your
he's
boss.
not,
Yes.
it's a different story. But it happens again, and here they are. Now they've seemed to be, like me, I think about with the Cowboys, maybe they're that team now. Again, you get that reputation where you get to the playoffs and then you stink. You can't get it done.
It's
And this is
funny,
what the
though.
Chargers have been.
Because like Brandon Staley, like the aggressive, play calling that he's made and decision making that he's made all season long, we criticize him for it.
Yeah.
What are you doing when going on fourth down on your own territory? Like, why do you need to feel the need to try to keep pushing the envelope? And it's bitten him in the ass several times, cost him a playoff run last year, and now this year you're in the playoffs and you're still making these critical decisions throughout a playoff game. Now I will say, Staley, you call the defense, bro.
Right.
27-zip first half. What happened to your defense? What happened to it? Like, you obviously couldn't figure out what they were doing offensively, and you didn't do anything to negate it. Didn't do anything to stop it or slow it down or do something to give it for your offense to put up 27 points. Typically in the NFL, that's all you need to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did it on the first half, but still, defensively, come on, you got to get the ball back.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep, we actually got our first comments of the night coming in from Paul Matty. So what's up from Playa Linda Beach,
What's going
Florida?
on, Paul? Yeah, my boy. What are you drinking? You drinking anything tonight?
Yeah, you drink it. He's had a pretty good weekend, halfway. Because again, he's watching the Jags do what they did, and then he was
That's
hoping
right.
for Tampa to do something, but
That
they
didn't
just
happen.
laid an egg
Yeah,
there
that
for
didn't
Tampa.
happen.
So
was
hopefully
also-
he got drunk early that
Hey,
night and
I
just
mean, it
was
was
like,
also-
I'm just gonna pass out now. I need
Did
to
you
watch
watch
this."
like the very end of that game, like after it concluded and everything, and how all the players went about their business?
the Cowboys game or the
Cowboys
no,
game, Cowboys
no.
Tampa. It was interesting
enough.
because just like we witnessed with Aaron Rodgers, him
Oh,
kind of
really?
going in the tunnel and kind of arm around each other at him and Cobb.
Paul said he's dry tonight.
Oh, all right, he's dry. He's
Man.
he's dry.
Man, good night.
But
What's the problem?
But anyway, I mean, watching Tom Brady and how he handled with some of the players, and you could see some of the expressions on their face, like Rashad White, the running back, came up to him and it was like kind of like gave him a pat on the back and said, basically like, good game, man. Like, it's been a pleasure. Like, kind of, it looked
Saying
like
goodbye.
there was a saying goodbye portion throughout that ending. And Tom Brady, I've never seen him get off the field faster. Like, he literally was beelining it. He shook hands real quick. Then he's like beelining it to the tunnel. And that's when Rashad White comes up to him, and it looks like they're saying goodbye. It looks like, he's done, and he's just out. And it's like that to me right there, kind of like his body language and how he went about that end of that game was different. It was very different than what we see from Tom Brady. So maybe he is done in Tampa. Maybe he is can't wait to get out of Tampa. Maybe he's gonna officially retire. I mean, who knows? There's a lot of options out there. But it was very interesting to watch him at the end of that game.
Yeah, and that's what you said. If you exit that way, it's a lot different than what we saw of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers like soaking up the moment. We saw it with Ray Lewis in his last Super Bowl game, too. He was over emotional in for the national anthem, and then even after the fact, really a lot of emotion. Aaron Rodgers, for a guy that doesn't show a lot of emotion, you could tell there's emotion there. If Tom Brady's just running off, it's like, yeah, no, Pete, I'm out. You don't need to talk to me right now about walking away at the game, blah, blah, blah. I'm out of here. And you could tell that maybe throughout the game, too, with the bumps and bruises he was getting hit, and throughout this whole season, he was very ready to leave a long time ago. And maybe that's why they're not on the same page. A lot of these receivers with him, Mike Evans stuff, I still don't get how they're not together in sequence, working together and on the same page in some of these plays and missing each other.
I mean, in that game, like, they were better. They were a little bit better than they were early in the season. Like, you saw that at the end of the season, they were starting to get things back together. Like, the very last game or two is when they started to kind of click again. And then into the playoffs, I would argue that Byron Leftwich, he's been up for a head coaching gig for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Like, his play calling at times were kind of questionable. You know what I mean? Whether they were to run or to pass in certain situations and what they were trying to do. It seemed like they were trying to attack deep a lot, especially early on, and the Cowboys defense was not going to allow that. So A lot of different things that were happening in that game that kind of made you scratch your head a little bit on. But other than that, like with Brady and everything, he even had his presser afterwards. And they asked him, hey, do you think you might come back to Tampa? And the way he expressed it, he basically said, oh, I'm going to go home. I'm going to think about it. And then I'll let you know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like he had his mind set like we've heard earlier in the year where he was just like, oh, no, I think I'm going to play another year. Now it's more like I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to think about it. And we'll see where Tom Brady ends up.
Yeah, I mean, this is all kind of uncharted territory a bit for Brady. You know, he's used to all this success. Even in the years they don't win the Super Bowl, they make a run, or he has, 50 touchdowns, some crazy stat during the season. He's not used to a mediocre season, getting beat up all year, not breaking 500, and then just getting crushed in the first round. This is all got to be a little weird for him. I would be just shocked to see him come back after all this, especially if they keep Todd Bowles around.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, too, is like, what does it say to Brady that they're thinking about keeping Todd Bowles? You know what I mean? Like, he was an interim head coach, and we've seen him have a head coaching shot before and failed miserably. Defense never got good. I'm back with the Jets. You know what I mean? It was just like that team was just never got to their winning ways.
Yeah.
Now you're bringing them to Tampa, and great D coordinator. Don't get me wrong. One of the best D coordinators that you'll have. However, when you put him in that head coaching seat, it's decision making goes out the window for sometimes. He's not aggressive like he calls his defensive plays pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't ever go for fourth downs or anything like that. So I don't know if that's a good decision, and if in fact that is their deal, then that could alter some of these soon to be free agents for Tampa. Maybe they make their decisions to move on as well.
There we go. We got 2 comments coming in from Paul Matty. We got Brady to the Raiders.
Oh, please no.
And Bulls is the drizzling shits.
That's right. It's a fact.
That
It's
is one
been
big
proven
pile of shit.
scientifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we were talking about it earlier. Let's just talk about the game there with the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I thought that one was going to be closer. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but
Oh, I
thought it
did
was
too.
gonna be tight.
I did too.
Especially because when you looked at the fact of how they played each other earlier on, the teams were a little healthier then. At least the Tampa Bay Bucks were than what the Cowboys are right now. The Cowboys are pretty healthy right now. But this, again, different team. You could see that team throughout the season, and that you could tell that team did not finish above 500. You know what I mean? They played like it. They're like, these guys only made it because they are the division winners. You know,
Right.
they're the division. So.
By
And that-
default.
yeah, by default. And that goes to show you, I was watching the Manning cast a little bit too, and they had Dan Campbell on there, and he says, man, this has really got to kind of grind your gears again when you see you guys went 9-8, and you're watching from the outside, and you're seeing an 8-9 team go in, because they are the division champions.
Which is hilarious.
And look at how they're playing. I think you guys would have gave a better run for your money against these Cowboys and stuff, and it's the way it is. So who knows? Maybe they do take a peek at some of this, and change it down the line. I don't see
I don't
it
see it,
happening.
no.
But focus on the game. Dallas came prepared, but really they took what the Tampa Bay Bucks defense gave them, and they gave them a whole lot of space.
Yeah.
A lot of zone, and even on man, they just missed
Lone
their
plays.
guys.
Guys were confused on the back end, and you saw that. When you leave CD Lamb wide open by himself, what is happening? Somebody's supposed to cover him. I just, it blows my mind. I see this happen time and time again with all different kinds of teams. And it happens, and you're like, how do you screw this up? How does everybody not communicate and understand each other's role? Like that's what is the most perplexing thing ever, especially in the playoffs. Playoffs, you cannot risk big mistakes like that. And the Cowboys made them pay for it.
Yep.
Early on in that game, it looked like it was going to be a really good game. It looked like it could be like a field goal game, actually. I mean, the way it was going early on in the first quarter.
I think
like,
Dallas would have lost
there was
Yeah.
constant back and forth, like 3 and out. Someone's punting here, then they're punting. It was just back and forth for a little bit. And then when the Cowboys finally, they broke it and they got that touchdown, I already there, because how much both offenses were struggling. I was like, the first team that scores a touchdown, I mean, that says a lot. The Cowboys scored the first touch, and I'm like, ooh, this does not look good for Tampa now. This is going to be something. And then just you watch the rest of that game, and it was like just all Cowboys after that point.
Yeah, and that turnover, I think, in that end zone, really, that changed how early that was in the game. That changed everything. You know, that interception right there
If
by
that
Curse.
doesn't show you that Brady's arm is weaker than normal,
yeah,
nothing will.
exactly, because
he
he
could have
was
thrown
just
it right out
throwing
of
it. He was
bounds.
trying to throw it out of bounds. I think he was trying to throw it in the back of the end zone.
just didn't put
and
enough
it just
on it.
didn't make it. It didn't make it because I
Just to the
quit watching
baseline.
it over and over. That's what I think he was trying to do. What do you think, Cody? I mean, that to me, that's what it looked like.
Yeah, this week we all kind of fell for that, that Brady magic, that being the only game that we all picked wrong. I thought it was going to be a lot closer. I thought it was just going to be kind of how it started, both teams grinding it out, keeping it low scoring, close to the end. And I thought Brady would take it, but it was ugly. The highlight of Tampa's day was watching Brett Maher miss kicks.
Yeah.
So, and then
Absolutely.
we actually, speaking of that, we got 2 comments from Paul Matty. One about Dallas is sticking with Brett Maher this week.
Yes, go Dallas.
And Tampa wasn't a good team all year long.
No, they
Yeah.
weren't, but they were just in the playoffs because they won the division somehow.
Yeah, but the thing is too, we talked about it before the game started. Like when we did our analysis of what has to happen in the game, they didn't follow the game plan.
No.
Like, dude, and it was brought up in the game. They had only rushed like 9 times, I think, in the whole game. You had to you had a healthy Fournette and
Yep.
stuff, and White looks good too. Again,
Rashad White, I'll tell
Yeah.
you right now, Rashad White looked like he deserved to have the ball all the time.
Right.
Because he was finding ways when it didn't look good,
To
he was
get
finding
some
ways to
more
get more
yards.
yardage and first downs and what have you. And it's like, how the hell did he do that?
right? And with Byron Leftwich getting with Tom Brady and making some plays, and how do you? If me, I'm the coordinator, right? I've got an aging quarterback that's a pocket guy. The pressure is getting all over him. He's not going to escape. What do I need to figure out a different game plan? If I'm going to run the ball, I have plenty of talent. You have Chris Godwin, you have Mike Evans, so who throws his force still too and gets physical. Do some jet sweeps with some Scotty Miller, something or other. Get some of those maybe tight end screens going. Do something else to simulate a run, kind of. Just get some of those chunk yards, because some of the plays they were doing, it just seemed like he's waiting for. There was times where you saw he was back there forever, just looking for somebody to get open. and it
but
wasn't happening.
But when you
and
send
then
just
finally
2
just get
receivers
sacked.
out for a pass, that was those plays. They were sending just 2 receivers out, and you can double team
Well,
both.
yeah, because
And
then
there's
they were
nobody
trying
open.
to keep people back to try and help block and to
I know.
help stop the pass rush. But
that's
you
the
have
thing.
to do something else other than that.
Right, short passes. That's what Brady
Mm-hmm.
does the best. Short to intermediate passes. You attack them.
you have guys
get them
with that
to
skill
back
set
off
there.
a little bit. Now you run the ball with Leonard Fournette and Rashad White, and then play the game.
Yeah.
because that's what you had to do. You know what? There was one other thing that I will point out that they should have definitely done. What Brady's favorite targets are usually tight ends. They didn't utilize the tight ends heavily in this game. They should have, because the way the Cowboys were attacking, sending various different types of blitzes and everything, you could have leaked out a tight end in the seam. You would have been wide open, and you could just dumped it over the D-line and the pass rush, and you could get 15, 20 yards at a rip. But they never utilized them until like the very, very end. Like
Yeah,
when
he started
their
going when
last
they needed it,
score
yeah.
was to Cameron Brate in the corner.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why did you wait all game to, now we're going to throw the tight end? Like, that to me kind of bothered me. Listen,
That's
Tampa,
always been Tampa's thing. Even
Tampa
too.
and how weak their offensive line play has been, you have to find creative ways into getting the ball into the players' hands and letting them do what they do. And I feel like in this game, I know that, Byron Leftwich has been seen as like this new head coaching candidate and stuff, especially last year. But maybe this playoff game is going to look bad on him.
Oh, absolutely.
And now who knows if he's going to get a legitimate head coaching interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely looks bad for him, especially when you got, the personnel, and now that Tom Brady's leaving. What do you see of this team moving forward? You know what I mean? Big questions for Tampa.
Rebuild?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rebuild? Mike, get out of there. Request a trade.
So next up, we got the Bills and the Dolphins game. Kind of one of our more surprising ones of the week. All
That was a bit
show,
of a surprise, yeah.
all we talked about was this game was going to be horrible. This is probably going to be a blowout. Maybe it'll stay close to this divisional.
Yeah.
But Skylar Thompson, he he did pretty good most of the game, and if it wasn't for a lot of those dropped passes early game by Jalen Waddle, even Tyreek Hill getting in on the drops, they might have had a better chance to pull it out at the very end.
For
'Cause,
sure.
It started how we thought it would. Bills 17-0.
Right.
They hop right out. Offense is firing. And then Josh Allen with 3 minutes left. Just interception. Just lets them right back in.
Yeah, and you've seen that a lot with Josh Allen. I think even this year, despite how people want to say too, what Josh Allen has arrived. He learned a lot from Brian Dable, eliminate some of these things. He still does some of these bonehead mistakes like that, like just throwing those picks in crucial times and stuff that keeps some of these other teams that shouldn't be there in the game. And I think partially some of it is they do stay aggressive, which is fine, and it works when it works, but it also can turn into turnovers, and that's what we saw kind of happen with that. But like Cody also brought up the fact that Jalen Waddle, I think he lost the one ball in the sun maybe because he looked back.
Yeah,
because he had it
couldn't
wide
find
open.
it.
Because,
Yeah.
dude, again, that was dropped perfect where it was. And like he said, too, as well, Skylar Thompson, you got to give it to the kid because he was there with poise and making some throws, and some of these other guys that are expected to make the catches and be there, they didn't back him up on some of that. So it was a close game. It was a really good game. Probably shouldn't have been, like he said, too. Also, Buffalo gets up on top quick, but then those turnovers keep it in it. And like Josh Allen, he didn't really bring it up to the fact he should have probably praised, I think, his defense a little more. He was just kind of saying, hey, what's important we got out of it with a win? But he made a lot of mistakes in that game. He needs to tighten it up here if he needs to do it against the Bengals.
He made some mistakes, and it almost cost them, for the Dolphins maybe possibly coming back. But I'll say this for the Dolphins is I kind of expected that type of a game because it was interdivision, because they both know each other so well. Mike McDaniels, kudos to him because he came in with a phenomenal game plan with a third-string quarterback that had no right to play in that game. And for him to develop the offense and the game plan that he did for this week, he did a great job. Great job calling plays. Great execution from Thompson at times. And I will say this, receivers need to go back to practice because they were dropping the football on them constantly. Yep. I know some of them were contested catches, but they were right there in your hands. So that kind of held back that offense a little bit. And for the Buffalo Bills, I mean, I feel like both the Dolphins and the Bills defensively kept their teams in the game. Like they were playing amazing, both sides of the ball there. Yep. But Bills on offense, yes, Josh Allen made some miscues and poor decisions and bad throws. But at the end of the day, when you're the offensive coordinator for the Bills, you need to reel him back in. You need to say, hey, we don't need to be as aggressive as before. We don't need to throw it 30 yards down the field anymore. We already have a lead. Let's run the ball a little bit more. Let's maybe do some RPOs and just game clock, control the game clock the rest of the way, bleed the clock right down to the end, and let's end the game. But I feel like it was a poor execution of offensive play calling by the Bills, but also, just like you said, because they wanted to stay aggressive, but you're putting your quarterback and your offense in jeopardy of maybe turning that game over to the Dolphins to win. Yeah,
absolutely. And what you saw kind of happen, too, I think, when you watched it, and I don't know, Cody, if you agree with me on this one, but when the Dolphins did possess the football, they had long, drug-out drives. Mm-hmm. And so they drug it out on that Bills defense. We're out there, kept Josh Allen on the sidelines a very long time. So when they did come back in, they weren't able to get the momentum going. And then when you have the rhythm isn't there, you get the turnovers right away. So then the defense is there again for a long, exhausting drive. If you look at the possession minutes, I'm sure it's a bit lopsided in the fact of the Dolphins. And that's what they really needed to do. And again, kudos to Mike McDaniels. I mean, I think he coached a really great game, and then to get the best out of a third-string quarterback, I was surprised myself. So they did a really well job. Mm-hmm. And imagine that. What would we be saying about the Bills if they don't make it out of this first round?
That's the one thing, too, about this is Mike McDaniels, first-year coach, ends up bringing the Dolphins.
When there's even murmurs about maybe firing him.
Right. Isn't that crazy? And then he ends up bringing them to the playoffs, and they did what they could with a third-string quarterback. But I would argue that Mike McDaniels is not in the right location. I really strongly believe that it was supposed to be Mike McDaniels in Vegas instead of Josh. I think Mark Davis was so dumb that he signed the wrong contract. sent it to the wrong guy, and got the wrong McDaniels out of it. So that's my piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it confuses me a lot that McDaniel's getting so much criticism this year. I know they got off to that hot start and then lost those 5 games in a row, but Tua wasn't playing. And Teddy, even when he was in, wasn't playing well. He made the best of a bad situation. He still got him to the playoffs, and they fought hard with Skylar Thompson and arguably had a very good chance to get a win there at the end. They just couldn't quite pull it together. You know, Josh Allen's got the more experience. You know, they got an MVP candidate versus a rookie. So this is what it came down to at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it sometimes bothers me when you see this with some of the other teams too, when they have a coach. Cliff Kingsbury, it's one thing too, but I mean, again, they were losing. They didn't have Kyler Murray in most of the season, and he gets fired right away, just like that. You know, there's an issue there.
Coach or quarterback?
There's
who you gonna
probably
pick?
different things there too, but when you see that, I mean, it's one thing if you're expected to have, like, that's when we talk about Brandon Staley, you're expected to have this playoff success or get there, and you keep getting there but not making it happen. Then we need somebody else that has this same team that looks great on paper that can get it going. Mike McDaniel's first year, again, like, why all of a sudden you would just be like, nah, this guy ain't working out already? Just because of the injuries that they had, you know, especially the quarterback who looked like you figured it out for him and you got the weapons that you needed for him. No, this ain't the right thing. Let's just restart again with a new offense with this guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? That would just mess up your quarterback worse than anything.
But it's not just restarting there. It's almost like the Arizona organization has made the decision to hit the reset button altogether. It's going to bring in a new coaching staff. It's going to surround Kyler Murray with different people. Like, they still have Hollywood Brown there, obviously, because they traded for him. But now it sounds like they're moving on from Hopkins. So it looks like they're going to be looking to trade Hopkins away. Now you're trading your number 1 star away, and it's like, okay, well, what do you have after that? Hollywood Brown's not Hopkins, you know, and he never will be. And then behind him, you have an aging AJ Green who knows if he comes back, probably should retire. But but other than that, it's like you've let young wide receivers walk out the door. Christian Kirk in free agency, he's gone now. So it's like you don't even have a real dangerous number 2. It seems like you're taking 20 steps backwards now. Like, yeah, you still have the quarterback, but now you got to find more weapons again. You know, and defensively, you still need to build that up. So whoever takes this job, whoever comes into this role here, it's going to be an uphill climb a little bit because they got to figure out an offense for Kyler Murray to develop with. And I'm not so sure if they're going to have that quick turnaround like they think they are.
Yeah, and then the Bills, I mean, they squeak out of there with a win. And another team that did too that didn't look very good, that has been playing very well too, and expected probably to win, the Cincinnati Bengals. Cody, why don't you tell us about that game a little bit?
Yep, that game got off to a bit of a surprising start. I wasn't able to catch the very start, but just to look at the score line, I was expecting to see Bengals up like 14-3, and then just to tune in and be like 10-7 Ravens. What's happening? Like, Joe Burrow got off to a very slow start in that game. And even by the end, their team wasn't firing on all cylinders. They just kind of pulled out what looked to be a bit of an ugly win. But, you know, win's a win in the playoffs, but you got to step it up
you
next round.
advanced. That's what it is, yeah, right?
That's right. I mean, the rate.
at the same.
Hey, we kind of they played the week prior, right? They played at week 18, and then it was just like kind of like a predetermining thing, like, oh, hey, guess what, guys? We're going to play in the following week. We'll be in the playoffs and see you there. Both teams knew exactly who each other are. You know, I mean, this is one of those, the AFC North is one of those tough divisions where anytime they play each other, it's usually pretty close. There's really no blowouts. So in this playoff game, thought that pretty much the same thing was going to happen, and it did. But for the longest time, it was happening the wrong way. We didn't think the Ravens would be leading. You know what I mean? The first half of the game or so. So for the Bengals, I mean, we kind of expected it. We did expect them to win, but not in this fashion. We kind of thought that maybe they might get up by a touchdown, maybe 10 points early on, and then just sustain it type of deal. Yeah. But man, way to make it interesting, Joe. Way to make it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was again excited, like Cody, or kind of just thrown off a little bit, like Cody was, I guess, too. And I'm watching. I was able to watch the whole game, and I tell you what, I gotta give it up to the offensive coordinator Greg Roman and the Baltimore Ravens, because they just for a team that you could totally tell they're just like a run first, smash mouth. That is their identity. Their identity is different from any other team I've seen before in the NFL. You know what I mean? Because
the offense is different.
People match, like, do a matchup like, pass to this ratio, pass to run ratio here. Maybe they change it up week to week like the Patriots do here and there. These guys are truly just basically your kind of run, get at you. And it is amazing that they're able to find success and just do it that way. And they were just pounding the daylights out of the Bengals. And it was just what they were able to do with Edmonds too, as well too. He's just so explosive, hitting the piles and getting going. The Cincinnati Bengals just weren't ready for it. You know what I mean? And Hundley, he did fairly well in the beginning too. Again, not really turning it over, but he was scrambling a little bit too, making some plays. And Andrews obviously a key guy too for them, but they were just kind of beating the daylights out of the Bengals, and they weren't, expecting, I think, this out of the whole thing, especially with what they had been playing. And they kind of got punched in the mouth a little bit. But, again, it wasn't until that play at the end zone, because if the Baltimore Ravens score on that touchdown, Ravens are walking away from this game, dude, because they had them. They weren't able to, they silenced that crowd and stuff like that. They weren't able to get the momentum going. And if you did that, that puts the nail in the coffin. Luckily, that whole patty cake volleyball type of move there at the end, when Hundley decides to reach it out across the goal line, and it gets batted back and into the defender's hands, and he takes it the full yard for the touchdown. That was basically the score that won the game. Cincinnati didn't do anything after that.
Point for sure.
That was the last score. For them, that was it. That was what won it for them. They weren't able to do anything even after that. They couldn't do it. So, I mean, that goes to show you that what this Baltimore defense has been able to do, too, stop that offense. And then also on the opposite side, that offense take care of the Cincinnati Bengals defense. If that play doesn't happen, we're looking at the Ravens come out of here with an upset win, and maybe Lamar's healthy this week and be able to play. But the fact that they played without Lamar there, the way they did and the way they were able to do it was impressive to me.
That's kind of what they've been trying to do with Huntley in the lineup all season when he took over at the quarterback position. But like for that pinpoint of the game, the reason why that play didn't work, it's real simple. The trenches for the Bengals won over the Ravens. They did not get the push on the Bengals like they needed. The Ravens really needed to drive them off the ball in order for him to have a chance to break that plane. Real simple. The Bengals didn't go anywhere. And once he jumped over and tried to reach, wasn't even close. So it just took the linebacker to knock it right out of his hand, and then it's all over.
And that's always questionable when you do that, too.
It was definitely one of the most exciting plays.
Ooh,
Imagine being a Bengals fan in that stadium, and you're sweating bullets. Like, you're like, oh, please no, please no, please no, please don't get it, please don't get it, please don't get it. And then all of a sudden that play happens, and you're like, holy shit! You know what I mean? Like that's just an amazing type of feeling. You're extremely worried and concerned, like your team's going to end up losing the game. To all of a sudden, oh, we won.
Yeah, I mean, for him to go, he needed the oxygen after that too. After running that whole way.
Oh man,
my wife was watching it with me. She goes, "That player right there, he doesn't usually play offense or hold the ball, does he?" I'm like, "No." She goes, "I could tell by the way he's running. It doesn't seem like he does that a lot." And I'm like, yeah, he does not. But yeah, I mean, that was pivotal, and that's why you got to question sometimes with these guys that try to reach it over the goal. How close do you really need to be to do that reach over? Because it's dangerous when you hold it there, because you're even holding it up for the fact that not only it's going to get stripped, but what are the referees, decisions and how far has the forward movement gone before they're like, oh, that's a dead ball, whatever, do we keep it live or not? Because he's reaching and nothing's going, and then bat.
Well, we've seen it before where guys
blow it dead before.
Jump and don't get it, they bounce back and then they run again.
And then they go.
So I don't think they would kill it that quickly. But for Tyler Huntley does not have long arms. Mm-hmm. I mean, so that wouldn't that go into
Tom Brady do something?
Wouldn't
like
that go into the decision making progress to run that play? Like, hey, like if you have Cam Newton is not only tall, but he's got these real long arms. So like he did that a lot at the goal line, and it was mostly successful.
Yeah,
Tyler Huntley, short arms. Not so successful. So, I mean, I don't know if that was the right call. Some people are even complaining about that call and saying, why would you do a quarterback sneak in that play and just try to blow them off the ball and run
Especially
the
when
ball
the
up.
running backs were running. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly. Like get that extra push type of thing, get the momentum and then help push into the end zone. But, it is what it is now. Like the play is over with, and what an amazing play altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a tight game. It was close the whole way.
Yeah, I think that Harbaugh had even stated that he did not tell Hundley to go over the top. He wanted to do your traditional QB sneaks that you see now, where you just kind of run into the center, and then your running back hits you
And
in
then
the
they
back
push
and
him,
projects you in. But
Right,
speaking
but-
of how the running backs had that hot hand going, a thing I really didn't like seeing in that after the game was the statements from J.K. Dobbins. You win as a team, you lose as a team, and I don't like seeing players criticizing their own teammates. So him coming out saying, I'm one of the best guys out there. I got to be getting fed the ball. If we wanted to win, you should have fed me more. And then coming out also saying, if Lamar's out there, we win that game, which I just don't think is fair to Hundley. He gave everything he had in the games he was in.
I would say that's like a tasteless comment. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he shouldn't have made that comment about Lamar. Like, oh, if Lamar was here, we would have definitely won that game.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? But because how does that make your other
yeah.
teammate feel,
Yeah, I
Tyler
know.
Huntley, who's been through thick and thin, trying to not only make the NFL but being able to hold on to a roster spot and do whatever he can to help you guys win, and then you hear that from your own teammate? That's kind of crazy. For the other comment for me from JK, like, oh, I need to get the ball. I would have gotten in there. That's just the competitor speaking. Like that's him saying, like, I would have got the job done. Just give me the ball. You know what I mean? So I don't have too much problem with that comment, but the other one about Lamar, like, yeah, you just completely threw Tyler Huntley under the bus on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't usually do that if you're a head coach and stuff. So I thought that was messed up with Harbaugh saying that about Huntley, about the reach over. And again, but to what you said, they didn't really give him the push either they wanted. So maybe he's like, all right, well, I can't go under because they're not giving me that dig to go under. I'm trying to go over the top now. It's that split decision.
It's
When that
very
moment is
difficult.
there, you don't know what's going through their brain. So, and then J.K. Dobbins, again, he's butthurt. Edwards played better. He did. He was running a lot better. I mean, if you get Edwards there, he's pounding that line and just going right through. We've got Greg Schreiner in the house with us tonight. Cody.
What's going on, Greg?
Yeah, he's saying it's a rivalry game. It'll be close with both healthy QBs. Not really,
I think what he's talking about Cincinnati,
maybe?
but it was close without the healthy QBs. So,
We're not there yet, Greg.
or maybe he's
We're
talking
not on
about the next
games.
one. Maybe he's
We're
talking
not on
about
the
the
next
one
games
he
yet.
wants to talk
Hold
about.
on,
We're
Greg.
getting there.
We're getting there. Hold on.
Jumping
ahead.
Yeah, let's jump into the final game that was this weekend too that we didn't talk about, and that's the New York Football Giants, Joe, and the Minnesota Vikings. We thought it was going to be close again, and the
definitely
Giants had
did,
enough to
yeah.
get it done. It was that type of game. So yeah, I know
that's what
he
he
wants to talk. We're gonna get right
We're
to
getting
it.
there. We'll get there.
But yeah, because we look at the regular season, they played each other before. What have these teams learned? We saw
Right.
with the Cowboys, they learned a lot, and then they were able to do what they did. But with the Minnesota Vikings and the Giants, again, a little healthier too. Throughout the game, they did suffer some injuries, but really had a good game plan going. They tried to shut down Justin Jefferson, but then almost to a fault, it kind of bit them in the ass a few times because they would overcommit and leave some other dudes open. So it was still a tight game. Minnesota was doing their thing, but the Giants held tight, stayed in it, and a good defensive hold. And Daniel Jones, once again, staying clean, getting the 200 yards passing or so and 2 TDs and almost another 100 yards rushing. That's what we needed out of him.
And that's you're starting to see the Giants offense take form. Like with Daniel Jones at quarterback, you're starting to notice like he has the absolute freedom to use his legs when needed. And when he does that, it puts the defense on their heels. They can't prepare for that. All week preparing for Daniel Jones throwing the ball and Saquon Barkley running the ball. And then all of a sudden you throw this little curveball in and you say, "Oh, Daniel Jones can run." Shit. He's got a 20-yard gain on us already. Like that is just a whole other aspect of the game that is so hard to defend. So much like Lamar Jackson, and how when he gets out in the open, it's difficult to tackle him.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, when he gets out in the open, he's got wheels. He can really go.
He does.
So that adds another element to his game, another element to this offense, which is kind of putting a lot of defenses on their heels to the point where they're being able to sustain drives. They're unpredictable. Brian Daboll's got a very creative offense with all these players at his disposal, and it's working. And then you couple that with the defense and how well they've been able to play, and who knows? Sky's the limit for the Giants at this point. Like, don't put them out. Like, they are on a roll right now.
Yeah, it was an excellent game to watch as a Giants fan, even just as a football fan. I have never really been able to watch a Giants game and the whole way through just having like that confidence in your team. Like,
No pressure.
Like my team's doing great. They're kind of doing what I want them to do. The only time when I was sitting there kind of like, this is getting a little sketchy is when Darius Slayton had that drop late in the game on a 3rd and 12, wide open on I think it was on like a 4 and in. It just hit him right in the hands, right off. And then it's just like, is this going to be it? Is this going to be where we collapse and lose to some 65-yard field goal or something ridiculous? But, defense stepped up, whole team stepped up, and I'm really hoping we can ride this momentum into the next week.
Right, you are.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have to.
And it was exciting to see because Cody knows too, as a Giants fan, when you've been watching it for the last 10 years or so, you didn't have confidence in your offense after the defense got scored on, that they were able to come back with a responding score. And this team has been able to do that, especially of late. And that's what they did in this game. So it was like two boxers going blow for blow, and whoever was going to end up with the last punch ended up taking it out. And you got to see them get that game-winning drive. And then when they had the offense going, they were getting stopped a bit there too. But you made Daniel Jones, you saw him make the smart play. Couldn't find anybody open, decided to take the sack just to keep the ball, the time going, which was smart. Before that, when the receivers think they caught the ball, ended up going right out of bounds and stopped the clock for some dumbass reason again, but stupid. But he knowing that, doing that, and then the dish to Darius Slayton, which it looks like it was supposed to be a wide open. I mean, you're watching it. He's there. Nobody's there. I mean, to get tackled even in the middle of the field, it runs down another 40 seconds or so. And just to flat out, just in that moment, trying to turn ahead already and just drop it. Things we've seen from Darius Slayton before this season. So in this game, it looked on early that even this guy was going to perform for us in the playoffs. And you're like, wow, this guy's kind of turned around because throughout the season, just mindless drops. Some
He
of the
better
drops he had
perform
were terrible.
because next year he could be out.
A lot of these guys could be out. What's going to happen with this roster? You got guys like Richie James and
They
things
gotta
like that
resign those
on
guys.
there. Hodgins,
They're
guy that
playing
came
well.
off the street. So much of an important part of this offense to where he's limited in practice this week. And I'm almost like, oh, man, he's got to play, And you're like, why am I saying this about this guy? You know what I'm saying? But a close game. Minnesota, they really were put into it, man. It was a knockout, drag-out game, like Cody said, for football fans altogether.
And those two players right there earned a right to have a contract for next year, because not only did they come in, nobody knew who they were. They were coming off the street. Like, these were guys that were not seen as threats to anybody, and they performed well throughout the season, and they've earned the right now. Now I hope that they do come back to the New York Giants, because if they re-sign those two key players, now you build around it. You know what I mean? If you're able to lock in Daniel Jones and you lock in Saquon Barkley and you bring in these other two guys, now it's like, okay, you got a core now on offense. You got a core that you're bringing back under this offense. Everybody gets it. Everybody plays well in it. And then you build on from there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
While I kind of agree, I also am not fully with it. I do like the way Slayton and James have been playing. But I do think, at least if you're talking about your starting core receivers, I think we could do a lot better. You could find guys who could do more.
I'm talking about bringing them along.
Yeah, I'm fine with that as a backup spot.
They're depth pieces.
Yeah, they're good depth pieces.
Yeah, and you saw what they could do when they step up, and this is all you want out of these guys. You want that next man up mentality, and that's what these guys have been able to do. You know what I'm saying? Despite this. I mean, they're in the playoffs, and we'll get the roster. We'll get the roster of, again, like the Chiefs or some of these other, the Buffalo Bills. We'll get the people that they have on their teams. You know what I mean? Even the Cowboys, look at them, and look who we have. So big difference there. But you know what makes a difference, big difference too, Joe? And that is getting your paint colorized. How about that? Go to Colorize. They have 4 locations, Niskayuna, Clifton Park, Queensbury, and now also in North Greenbush. That's right. Go to mycolorize.com to learn more about them, but they're your local Benjamin Moore dealer. And being an independently owned dealer, that means they can deal with anything paint related to Sherwin-Williams, whatever. Any color you want to mix, they'll do it for you. They have the products for the that you need to get the things done to, tape it off, whatever. They've got it. Check them out at any of those 4 locations or go to mycolorize.com. That's right. The professionals that know how to get it done. All right. Joe, it's playoff time still. Here we go. We got rid of the first super wild card weekend. We're on to the divisional matchups. Cody, let us in. Let's take a look at that beautiful tree. Yeah, I love Christmas time and look at the trees, but this is the tree I like to look at. It's all decorated here. Look at the colors.
Doesn't look much
Especially
of a tree.
when it's the playoff tree. It's
a bracket.
It's the same thing. It's the playoff tree. They
Tree,
call it the
bracket,
same
same
thing,
thing.
man. It's the same thing. You never heard it called a tree before?
Not that. That's a bracket.
Well, when it's filled up, when we get the other 2, it's like putting a star on. The star's got to go on last, Joe. Anyways, Cody, what do we got the matchups here? What do we got Saturday? What's Saturday's game?
All right, with our first game we got coming up, we'll have the Jaguars facing off against the Chiefs. And what might surprise... Oh, gotta switch cameras.
All right.
There we go. All right, what might surprisingly be what I hope to see is a shootout game. Jaguars riding that hot streak that we saw in the second half. I want to see that team. I want to see that team play the Chiefs because otherwise the Chiefs will just run away with it. There's no stopping the Chiefs at this point. You just kind of hope to contain them and hope that maybe you can force Mahomes into a silly turnover or 2. So the Jaguars got to just keep pedal to the metal all game. I don't care what score is.
Absolutely, and that's the other thing too is like for the Jaguars, teams have stopped the Chiefs. Teams have made them confused at times.
Remember, they lost to the Colts, right?
That's what I was going to bring up. The Colts. The Colts really kind of stunted the Chiefs in their progressions and anything that they were trying to do. They were just getting messed up for some reason in that game, and that was the Colts. Like that was a team that looked terribly bad. And they were also called that as well. But it was amazing to me that some teams along the way this season for Kansas City, they've struggled mightily against some teams. And people don't kind of point the finger at them and like, hey, what happened with this game? What happened with that game? Like, why couldn't you just demolish everybody? It's these type of games like the Jacksonville Jaguars that they're about to face. They do not know anything about them. They're going to probably be watching game film from this season on the Jaguars and their last playoff appearance. And, I mean, they're not going to get much from that because unless they look at just the second half. But this is the unique thing about playoffs is when it brings teams like these together for the first time they're facing each other. And it's like there's going to be a feeling out period in the first quarter, maybe even into the second quarter, where they're going to try to figure out, this is what they do best, this is what we do best, and try to come up with a game plan for the second half to kind of blow it open. But these games right here are very tricky to pick, too, because we don't know. We know what to expect from the Chiefs. We know that they're a high-scoring offense, and then they let their offense, as long as they're able to put up points, then their defense kind of thrives on it. They pin their ears back and they blitz and put all the pressure on the opponent. But this is the Jaguars, which it's the first time where we're going to see them. Jaguars do like to keep it balanced. They like to run the ball and throw the ball and kind of keep it a balanced, offense. And defensively, they just need to simply get pressure on Mahomes and not allow him to break containment. Because when you allow Mahomes to break containment and they have broken plays, that's where he thrives. That's where he plays his best football, is when it's a broken play and then he's just out running around and then he's looking for someone and then sometimes he just takes off. Like, you got to prevent those type of plays happening. So for the Jaguars and Chiefs, this is going to be a big matchup. I agree with you. We talked a little bit off the air about this, Jim, and you were saying, like, you think it's going to be a close game. I think you might be onto something here.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you take a look at it, and history repeats itself again, the Chiefs have been here before. They've been here. But also we know from them being here that them getting that number 1 seed, they come out slow on that week of rest. Mm-hmm. They're going to come out slow. You think they have that week to prepare, and they're going to be like, all right, we're going to go in on that. I think they're going to come out a little like, oh, yeah, I'm not a little lethargic, coming in off a little bit. Man, and then they got to get it going, which I think might play into their hands the way they are styled and the way they play the game.
Right.
Because we've seen the Chiefs get much like the Chargers and get ahead, get a lead, and then all of a sudden they're like, all right, let's take a rest now, put on cruise control and chill. And then all of a sudden, holy crap, now we got a football game. Hey, guys, it's close now. What the hell? Let's go. We got to get this going. And then little discombobulated can't get it going. They barely rush out a game, or they end up losing. So that's key for them to probably have, like, where it be close so they feel they need to keep driving and keep their motivation and keep going and score here. But how is Patrick Mahomes going to play? He has been reckless with the ball a lot this year, too, as well, and turn into turnovers. So
you can't
it's
say
gonna
that,
be
Jim.
interesting. I just did.
Oh,
It's
my God, that's sacrilege.
It's on
She's
tape.
too
You're going to
elite
see
for
that.
Unbelievable.
Record that. And and you're going to see these quarterbacks, these two young quarterbacks, duke it out. And, I think some of these analysts are really going to be taking a look at, Trevor Lawrence and saying, what is this guy got here in the playoffs here? Let's see what he's made of against now Patrick Mahomes, because you see the way it is, even in the headline, it makes me want to vomit again. Freaking Dallas Cowboys defeat Brady. I'm sorry.
Wait,
was
what?
Tom Brady the only guy that played that game?
He was the only guy.
He was the only guy playing. He was on offense,
Oh,
defense,
okay.
whatever. They defeated Brady.
I thought
by the
they
way.
had a guy by the name of Mike
that was
Evans.
a legitimate headline. Whoever wrote that article is an idiot. You know
But
what I
there's a
mean?
lot of them out there.
But anyways, this is what they're going to do. They're going to try and do
Yeah.
that. These two together, young, quarterbacks. And but again, I think there will be turnovers. You're going
Right.
to see some of that happen. But I think along with that, you're going to see some of the magic that happens along with
The
it.
other
But,
thing, too, that I want to point out is the Jaguars. Listen, Jaguars, you're not supposed to be here.
yeah,
You're not supposed to be here.
Yep.
You're playing the number 1 seed. That means you have nothing to lose.
Yes.
I don't care if you do dumb, creative trick plays.
Whatever
and
you need to do
and
to
they
win.
don't work. Or as long as you're trying, do an onside on kickoff. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, go think out of the box in this game, because if you do that and you're able to execute even a couple of the plays, that could be determined that you might have, beat the giant that is the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. That'd be incredible. So Jaguars coming into this matchup, don't do anything conventional. That's all I'm asking. Like, think outside the box, try some different things in this game, because you're not even supposed to be here. So why not try everything you possibly can to try to win this game?
Yeah, it's weird to look at a game at this point in the playoffs and be like, oh, this kind of has the feeling almost like a trap game, because everyone's going to be picking the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
There's not going to be anyone picking the Jaguars as much as, we can talk about how much we want to see the Jaguars pull off
Right.
the upset,
Yep.
how much we hope they do this, hope they do that. The Chiefs have been here. They always play at a certain level. Their bad games are still great games, while the Jaguars' bad games are mediocre at best.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at this, it's the playoff time. Like you said, there's nothing to lose. Teams play
Put it
different.
all on the
and
line,
Doug
bro.
Peterson, we've seen it before
And I'll
in
say this.
the Super Bowl,
Like,
the Philly special.
right. The Jaguars, their offensive line is healthy, which is a big deal. I mean, coming into this matchup. But one thing that we noticed last week, and it's going to be looked at, is Juwan Taylor, the right tackle for the Jaguars. Joey Bosa was complaining about, it's false start. He keeps taking a step right before the snap of the ball, and he was doing it several times, and the refs just never called it. So that's why Bosa was so upset and ended up getting kicked out of the game. But that's got to be looked at now. Like, if you're Juwan Taylor, dude, don't go early, because I know you're trying to gain a
'Cause now
competitive
you're being
edge,
focused.
but you can't be doing that, because this is going to be that type of game where the Chiefs are the favorite, right? So you're in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
The refs are in Kansas City. They're scared of the fans beating them up after it. So they are going to make these calls against you nonstop. So hopefully the Jaguars can kind of play a very clean game, or as clean as possible, to try to stay in this game, because that's something else you got to watch out for.
Absolutely. All right, so are we gonna do the picks here? Who's Joe? Cody, let's start us off with the picks. What do you got here?
All right, so
So you-
while I do want to see Jaguars win, they're the team I'm going to be rooting for.
Definitely.
I just can't pick
I
them.
feel like we're all going to do this.
Yeah.
We're gonna
I'm gonna
play this game
I'm gonna
again.
be going
We're going
with
to
the
play this
Chiefs.
game again.
It's like yeah.
Yep.
We're the
Yeah.
hot chick right now, looking at the best friend that's close to us. Like, you're a nice guy. You deserve somebody special. We're like, yeah, I do. Oh man, I think she's gonna say she loves me. She's like, but it's just not me.
No.
You will find somebody though. There you go. Keep your head up, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with you, Cody. Like, it's in Kansas City. It's tough to pick against the Chiefs. The way they've been playing at times, it's like, listen, this is like David and Goliath right here. Now, it could happen. The Jaguars could literally upset the Kansas City Chiefs. But I can't pick with my heart. My heart says pick the Jags, but I can't. Kansas City is just too overwhelmingly good. They have Andy Reid on their side, one of the best offensive minds in the game. So, yeah, it's got to be the Chiefs. Sorry, Jags.
You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
And
But I will root for the Jags
Well, there you go.
the whole time.
I hear you. That's one of those teams. Games like this are exciting because I have no, horse in the real
Allegiance,
thing or
yeah.
anything, any of them. And I respect what the Jags were able to do. I mean, how nice does this?
It's amazing.
We talked about maybe Coach of the Year being Brian Dable
Doug
or maybe
Peterson?
Doug Peterson. Both of these teams have made it through the wild card round, and now we're here still.
I think
so.
Doug
How
Peterson-
tight is that even? Too. I mean, it is pretty amazing stuff. But
And then
Kansas
Brian
City,
Daboll,
it's
I
going
would
to be
even
tough.
put into
Well,
that.
that's what I just said. Put the two here, and here they are.
games.
You know what I mean? So, but look at Kansas City. They're tough to play at home. They need to. I think they're going to come out slow, but that's what I think helps get them charged and able to pull this victory out and stay with them. But I like the Kansas City Chiefs too as well.
All right. So next up, we're going to have the Giants and the Eagles taking the night game on Saturday. Jimmy?
All right, the Giants and the Eagles. Again, the Giants haven't beaten the Eagles in Philadelphia since 2013, right, Cody?
Yep.
And the Eagles also had the most sacks this year, too, out of any team defensively. So that's not boding well for the Giants, too, as well, with the way that offensive line does play well at times, but still,
its
again, very
moments.
leaky, especially over there at the Evan Neal spot. He was giving up pressure all of last week, too, as
Right.
well. It's like almost like, is he doing this on purpose so that Daniel Jones takes off running? Or I'm not
Jones
sure.
was
It
using
could have
to his
been.
advantage.
But this is going to be a tough game between these guys. But we have seen the Eagles kind of vulnerable in the last week, too, as well. The first time seeing Jalen Hurts back from his injury in that game against the Giants, and the Giants with backups kept it close. So I think they use that as motivation, too, as well. If I'm Brian Dable into the in the locker room saying, hey, every man step up and do their job. We almost took them out, and they're the number one seed. They're sitting there. They are the man at the top. Like you said, we're not even supposed to be here. But we're going to show them that we deserve to be here. Let's go out this, and we deserve to win this. So I think it's going to be a close game, divisional matchup. It's always been close, except for that first time they played them this year.
Except for that
Got
one
the shit
time.
kicked out of them, though. But, I mean, again, it was the personnel that we had, especially with injuries. They're just trying to feel each other out. It's later in the season. You can see how much they've grown together. It's tough against the wall, but, I might go with the New York Giants on this one.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go a different direction here, real quick. I'm going to go with the Eagles because here's the reason why. When they played the Giants last, they didn't have Lane Johnson either. And now he's healthy. He's coming back. It seems like they're going to be completely healthy coming in and to play the Giants. So Jalen Hurts healthy, and that's really their X factor. That's really the difference in that offense. We've seen Gardner Minshew try to take over that offense. Doesn't do a very good job at it at all. So Hurts is the reason why the offense was killing it like it was all season. And defensively, they're healthy again. Like, this is a scary team coming into the playoffs. I'm not saying the Giants don't have a chance, but I do believe it is going to be very close. I think because it is playoffs, I think also because both teams know each other so well that it's going to keep it close. But I think the Eagles are end up going to steal the win in the end.
All right, so I'm actually going to be going with Jimmy on this, big shocker in a Giants jersey. But I do have good reason to back myself up. So watching that Week 18 game, it seemed like the Giants defensively really figured something out. And that was even without guys like Adoree Jackson in our lineup. Is we just blitzed as much as possible. And we're like, all right, Hurts, up to you. Beat us with your arm. And we very narrowly almost came out with a win. And I think with Adoree Jackson in there, if he can play at the level he played most of the game this week, I think we have a very realistic shot. It's going to be close all game, but I think we pull out a close one, especially if we see the offense clicking like it did this last week.
Right. Adoree Jackson is probably going to be on A.J. Brown. Again, he was the guy that was mainly on, Justin Jefferson, too, with another spy that came over or whatever over the top with them. You're going to see a lot of that. And, again, Xavier McKinney in the box. He plays well in the box. He plays great man. And you saw this last game, he made a pivotal play in the end of the game that sealed the deal.
Yep.
So, I mean, we see Xavier McKinney make some plays here. Greg Schreiner's in the house with us tonight. Again, here he is now saying about Brian Dable for the win. He's going with the Giants, the G-men on this one. I like
Bills
it.
fan.
I know.
Picking the Brian Dable.
Look at that. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Hey, man.
No biased.
We love it. We love the fan here.
A little bit biased.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what do we got for the next lineup here, Cody?
All right, next up early on Sunday, we got the Bengals versus the
Bengals
Bills.
and the Bills. Perfect timing, Greg. There we are.
Yep,
Bengals
came in
and
just in
Bills.
time. Joe, if you want to kick us off.
This game is going to be a great game. I feel like this is the Bengals and the Bills. Like, this is one of those matchups that you want to see. This is what you look forward to. I feel like this is going to be one of those epic type of playoff games where it's going to come right down to the end, but it's going to be close. There's not going to be a blowout one way or the other. And both teams, they're going to give it their all into this game, and so much so that you might even see some bodies rolling. You might even see some physicality happening, maybe even some fights breaking out, because this is going to be all in for both teams. So one concern that I had coming into the playoffs was Josh Allen's elbow and how long he can sustain health in that. So far, it's healthy-ish, because some of the throws that he made last week kind of showed me like maybe there is something more to that elbow. Some of the balls kind of sailed. Some of the balls when, he just overthrew them. And I wonder if there's a little bit of a pain issue in that elbow. So I don't know how much that's going to affect him in this game. But something kind of just, it kind of flipped a switch for me, like trying to look into that. But the Bengals, on the other hand, they're also coming into this game. The one problem that they might have is DJ Reader at D tackle. Left the game. Says that they're resting the player on today. So maybe he'll be a full go by the time the end of the week happens. But all in all, I feel like this is one of those epic matchups between good defenses, good offenses, and it's like may the best team win. I'm going to go with the Bills in this one.
All right, we actually got a comment coming in from Greg Schreiner again. We got both teams dealing with mucho injuries. So I see both QBs slinging it all over the field, and he'll be in Buffalo this Sunday.
Oh, he's going to be in Buffalo. How about that?
Good for
Nice.
you,
I like
Greg.
it, dude.
Nice.
The game isn't going to be there, is it? Aren't they playing a neutral site this
I
week?
believe they're playing in Atlanta this week.
Oh,
After what
yeah.
happened
That's
to
like,
I wonder
about
how that works with the ticket sales.
Right.
Like, are they going to do it like college? Like, you sell half the tickets to Bills fans and half the tickets to Bengals? Or is it just a free-for-all? Anybody that first come, first serve.
There's
First
probably
come,
going to
first
be a
serve.
wicked watch party there in Buffalo then. So he's probably going to have an exciting time over there. He also taught us a new word last week, but I forgot it already.
Spedaz.
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 That's what
You
it's
can't
spedaz.
ever
There you
forget
go.
it.
Spedaz. I'll have to remember. I have to write that down, man. Spedaz. I won't ever forget it now. It's on there. All right, so yeah, it's going to be a Spedaz game, maybe. The way these teams have been playing, though, Joe. They were underwhelming the last 2 weeks. This last week, because again, we're expecting a team to come out there and show what they've been doing with their offense, and they both kind of came out there lame, almost losing to a third-string quarterback and then a second-string quarterback. So how are they going to play each other now? We saw the Bengals come out at home on fire. It looks like they had the momentum to win that game. You know what I mean? Buffalo got out of there, and then it was just a wash. So now they're playing in a neutral field. And it's going to be interesting to see, and no weather, obviously, because it's going to be in a dome.
In a
so
dome.
we're going to see all that we can, I think, out of these offenses here.
One interesting
So
thing
it
that I
should
have
be
to
pretty
point out
close.
is the Bengals look like they're going to be missing 2 starting offensive linemen. They were
Yeah.
greatly injured last week. That's going to play a pivotal portion of the game.
Absolutely. You saw that last week, too. Yeah.
Where, like, I just wonder. That's the other thing that I was a little concerned with. Like, we saw how much Joe Burrow was struggling early on, and now that you're losing offensive line help, like that's kind of like a little thing that worries me.
Right. I hear you there. Man, you saw it when Jonah Williams went down. What a big difference there was here for them. And yeah, I think when it comes down to it too, I think the Bills have the more personnel to get it done. against this team, but it's going to be close. But I think I'm going to roll with the Bills too as well in this one.
All right, and to absolutely no one's surprise, I will be also joining you guys on the Bills bandwagon. But I think this is just going to be an excellent close game. We've been waiting for this matchup now for a couple weeks. That game got off to a crazy start, and while we're not in Cincinnati this time, the energy in that place is just going to be electric. The emotions of the players are already heightened for this being in the playoffs, and with what happened with Hamlin in the last game, everything's just going to be crazy for both these teams. I expect this to be extremely high scoring. I hope we don't see Joe Burrow get sacked almost 10 times, but with his linemen beat up, it very much could happen.
Absolutely.
So I think the Bills are definitely going to be pulling out a close one here. All right, and with that, we will roll into our last matchup. We have the Cowboys versus the 49ers, which I'm hoping we see the Cowboys that we saw this last week, so we have a very good game. But the Niners defense is terrifying. If Dak Prescott is reckless with that ball at all, it's getting picked off every time. He's going to have defenders in his face every play. This is not going to be easy. You aren't going to be able to get the run going unless you are very creative. So I'll make my pick a little early here. I think the 49ers are going to win. I think it's going to be close for about 3 quarters. And then by that 4th quarter is really where you're going to see that wear and tear starting to take its toll on Dak, on the running backs. And I think the Niners just going to pull away in that last quarter of play.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with this. The Cowboy-Niners thing is it's like there's a long history here in the playoffs. These two have met multiple times throughout the years, and it's always a slugfest. It's always some kind of crazy game. The Cowboys coming into this, they're also a little bit hampered as well. Like we saw them injured on the offensive line before, and they were shuffling guys around this past playoff game. But now it sounds like Jason Peters, who was playing left tackle for them, has a hip issue. Hopefully he can be able to recover, so that way they can kind of sustain what they had going for them. But that with that shuffling of the offensive line, and you're going up against one of the best defensive lines this week, that's got to be concerning. Just like what you said, Cody, about if Dak can kind of keep the offense rolling and make some throws and all that, I don't think that happens that easily for him this week. He's playing the number 1 defense against the run, against the pass, everything. And you got to face a rush that is unlike any other that you have seen. So not only do they cover extremely well on the back end, even at the linebacking position, but also they are right in your face every time, just rushing 4. So that, to me, is another big hurdle that Dak still has to climb. And on top of that, you got the Cowboys defense. And you could say, oh, they played great last week. They played Tampa. They played a team that was, crucially hurt interior on the offensive line, didn't have any real go-to guys. Like, yeah, okay, Ryan Jensen did come back and play center for you, but he's only one dude. So throughout the season and into the playoffs, they were struggling offensively. Your defense did adequate job. Now you're going to be playing a team that is not only sufficient on defense, but also sufficient on offense. And yes, with a third-string quarterback, Brock Purdy, who's actually kind of overachieved as a rookie. He's played extremely well, does not get buckled, doesn't buckle under the pressure, is very poised in the pocket. When he has to, he uses legs and distributes the football. So all in all, I just think you're going up against such a big deficit against this Niners team and how well they play together and how well they're orchestrated, their offense and defense, that I think it's just too much for Dallas. You can definitely see the Niners shutting down the run much like last week. Last week, Tampa tried to shut down the run, and they did a good job early on. And then it made the offense kind of spit and sputter. I think the same thing continues, but throughout the whole game.
Right.
So to me, it's going to be Niners all the way.
Yep.
All right, and yeah, I hear what you're saying here too. And when you look at it, it's night and day with this defense, the Tampa defense compared to the Niners defense. Dak Prescott, they were able to go more passing in this game because the Tampa Bay Bucks allowed them to. They made it kind of easy for them to pick apart that zone and just place it where it needed to be. Guys were making mistakes. that secondary, and then even the front four, 6 of the Niners even too. It's just crazy, the guys that make an impact for the 49ers on defense, what they can do. It's a lot different of an animal. You're not going to get some of those looks that you're going to get that you had with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're not going to get those mistakes that where you can just pick it apart. So then you got to say, all right, Dallas, we got to go back to what we were doing before, because we had complained about you give Dak too much power to go in there. He's making the turnovers. They need to stay balanced. They need to run the ball. That's what I think they need to do in this game to keep it close and to be in this game. I think they need to run effectively. Tony Pollard and a little Zeke here and there, back and forth a little bit, then get into that play action. You saw what Dak Prescott was able to do on that whole play action bootleg where he just faked it on the run and just took off and got the easy touchdown. You're not going to get that type of stuff here against this 49ers defense here.
They're going to be ready for it.
On the opposite side, again, despite Brock Purdy being there and where he was in the draft and how he got in here, you do what you're supposed to do. Play efficiently, run the offense, limit your mistakes, and with the weapons that he has around him too, you can't set him up for success any better. I mean, you got a Christian McCaffrey on your running back situation. You've got your wide receivers, Deebo Samuel. You got George Kittle. I mean, an all-star in almost every highlight position. So it's going to make it nice for you there on offense, too, against this defense that we've always said has been kind of opportunistic. I don't think you're going to get the opportunities with this Kyle Shanahan offense the way he runs it, too. He's going to mix it up on you. It's not just going to go to Deebo all the time. It's not just going to be this guy all the time. It's going to give you a little taste of everything. And I think overall, after it's all said and done, we're going to see the 49ers come out with a victory on this one.
All right. I think that concludes all of our picks.
All right, Joe or Cody, let's see where the picks are at now, right? I mean, it's close. We just had a different one in this one. Cowboys and we got the Giants. I picked difference in the Eagles, right? Yeah, so here we go. So here we go. Still, Joe's just one game ahead. It's tight here. So can the G-Men do it for me, on this one? I don't know. It'd be tough, but
Get tied up going into the next round.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be exciting. We're going to be at Restaurant 605 on Saturday, so it's going to be cool for the game. It's going to be exciting, a big old watch party. So always a good time when we go to Restaurant 605. They broke the curse last time with beating Washington, so that's a good thing. Our one friend won't even go because the last couple of times he's gone because they've lost. They've lost there.
Oh,
so he feels
God.
like, I don't want to go because it's going to make him lose.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that goes to show you sometimes with the, what was that superstition and everybody with football and games and stuff like that. If fans are fanatics, they always have superstitions and
It's
everything
only
crazy.
weird if it doesn't work.
Absolutely. So that's our show for this weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure, like Joe always says here, you go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, let you know we go live every single time. If you haven't been a member on Facebook yet, what the hell are you waiting for? Our group is huge right now. Join in with the family. Post, like, share, do all that great stuff. We're on Twitch and Twitter, FBR_no, and on Spotify also. If you like to take us on the go, I know a lot of people have. I had a guy just subscribe to us on Spotify too. He's like, I listen to Spotify. I don't watch all that stuff. So there you go. If that's your thing, that's what you do. So we appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.